Welcome to A Scrap Life, a podcast solely focused on the hustlers, grinders, operators, and business owners who live and breathe the scrap metal industry every day. Here is your host, Brett Eckhart.
All right, here we go. January 2025, A Scrap Life, Bulls versus Bears. We had a shit end to 2024. It was a tough slog on the Ferris trading side. Non-Ferris treat us pretty well, but I'm thinking Ferris in 2025 is going to be we're going to get some love. Now, depending on what Chad's point of view is, we're about to hear in a minute, but I'm thinking 2025 is going to be a better year than 2024 on the Ferris side. Chad, welcome. Thanks for showing up. Another year. Let's get this party started. What do you think about 2025, man?
Well, this is great. I feel like we should start out in January with 2025 predictions. So
Let's do the thing.
Do I think scrap is going to be on average lower or higher than 2024? That's a great question. I would lean more bullish than bearish at the moment.
Okay.
So I would say higher. What do you think?
Okay, I think it's gonna be higher. Of course, I'm a bull. Do you think it's gonna end higher or lower than it is today? Come to into December, are we at a higher trajectory or lower?
Lower.
Than right now?
Lower.
Than right now?
Well, all right. So I'll play the bearish. So if I was no, so the reason I'm bearish next year is because, and we can talk about like the U.S. Steel deal, right? Like that got announced. I get it, but if you think about if you're U.S. Steel, and like if you look at Nucor stock or SDIs, they've already got whacked. So why is that? Is because I think the stock market's telling us next year is going to be rough. I think like U.S. Steel, for example. Their number one customers are the OEMs, the big three automakers.
Mm-hmm.
Credit car loans are at the highest they've ever been. You got BYD or whatever that Chinese automotive company, and then you got Tesla as competitors. So I think the automotive industry next year is going to be rough, like rough for 2025. And so if that's true,
car industry or the car
automotive industry, I think next year is 2025 is the year when Tesla's autonomous driving robo-taxis come out. And I think that's when Tesla, really will go. I think robots will be the theme of 2025, whether it's autonomous driving or a robot working in a manufacturing facility. I think that's actually going to come, not like on scale, but you'll see instances of that. Mm-hmm. And so I think the easiest bearish point is to say the automotive industry is going to be a wreck in 2025. And so that tells me the integrateds are going to really, really suffer because that's their number one customer.
So how does a robot working in a factory affect the production of cars and steel consumption?
Well, I think no. So Tesla doesn't use as much steel as they use more aluminum, right? So I'm bullish on aluminum.
Yeah.
I just think between Chinese automotive group, BYD, I think worldwide they will start dominating around the world. I think Tesla this year will be their year where they really take off. And I think the big three who are the big consumers for the integrated steels, being Cliffs and U.S. Steel, their main customer will be buying less this year than they did last year, which will put even more pressure on steel. And then you got Nucor and SDI nipping at their heels to take them out, right? Like it's not going to be a good year for the steel industry.
It's not going to be a good year for U.S. Steel, but at the same time, like I was just reading this morning. So, I mean, if you want to get real, let's just fucking get into the weeds. So we're here. So I think the reason that Biden didn't allow the U.S. Steel deal is because he's bought off by China. Let's just fucking it is what it is. That deal's not good for China. It's good for Japan. It's good for the US. It's not. Trump, the reason that Trump is saying no, not right now, is because Trump's sitting there going, "Hey, if you just give me a little bit of time and I put some tariffs on steel imports coming in, you're gonna actually be whole again, and you're gonna have a chance to make some money. Not that whether they will or they won't, like that's here nor there. But if you look at Nucor stock price, a lot of these other steel company stock prices, when were they like at their like when did they have a really great run? Is the last time there was big tariffs put on new steel coming in, and the U.S. was able to dominate their own domestic market, right? So do you think interest rates are going to be higher at the end of this year or lower than they are today?
So I have a different opinion about China, right? So I would say to
No,
go
but
to go
you
on.
went through and made like four bear points. Like I'm just gonna say this. Like let me finish. So I think interest rates will be lower by the end of this
Okay.
year than they are today, right? Which to me, if the interest rates are lower, that's actually a positive for the automotive market because one of the reasons why there has been less automotive, less cars purchased is because people have extended the length of time they actually hold cars than previous years, right? So people are actually driving their cars longer because it's expensive to get a new car loan, right? So they're
Yeah.
driving them longer. At some point when those rates come down, there's going to be a lot of cars that are going to come off the market. They're going to have to get replaced or new cars are going to get bought. So that's the next bullish point. So I think interest rates come down. That's going to add a little bit of motivation for people to buy new cars. Second, or third, or fourth, however you want to get to it. If we actually do get a drill baby drill, like we're talking about, that's positive for one other big, strong steel consuming segment of the market, which is the OCTG market, right? So if the domestic automotive purchases is a big mover in the domestic steel market. So is the OCTG market when things are really ripping if they're allowed to drill and produce oil, right? If the price of oil comes down because we can actually produce more of it ourselves domestically, then guess what happens to the automotive market? It actually gets a little more positive because gas isn't $4 or $5 a gallon. So to counter your automotive is going to be the worst thing ever, and BYD is going to come in and sell a bunch of electric bullshit cars. Like I say, I disagree.
All right. So the only way interest rates would be lower in 2025 is if that's true, inflation has to be lower. For that to be true, commodities have to be lower. So I'm with you. I'm bearish as hell for next
Okay.
year.
So, okay, great. But and honestly, like if we have $2 diesel, like I don't mind fucking $300 scrap if we have $2 diesel. It's just a fucking killer when you have $4 diesel and $300 scrap, right? Like I think put it like this, do you think the dollar is going to be stronger or weaker at the end of this year than it is today?
Before we go there, let's talk about
Well, no, no,
oil.
no.
So
Now I'm ready. Like, do you think the dollar will be stronger or weaker than it is at the end of this year than it is today?
I think it'll be stronger.
Than it is today?
Yep.
Man, we are looking at out of two very different sets of sunglasses.
Well, hear me out. So
Okay.
for oil, I don't think it can really. So it's at what, 73, $74 a barrel today.
Yeah.
I always heard that $75 a barrel is kind of where, or above, like 75 to 85 is really the sweet spot because it's not too expensive that the demand goes down, but it's not too cheap that it you can't be successful in drilling. So how is oil going to go down? I think if we drill baby drill, I don't know if we go down to $50 a barrel, I don't think the demand is going to be there because it's going to be
Even
like,
at 60 is, I mean, if you can get it down to 60 in the 60s, I think you're doing pretty good. And let's just say The last time we had $500-700 scrap, the price of diesel was $5-6. So maybe if it is counterintuitive, you say, okay, I'll take higher. I'll deal with higher diesel price. I'll deal with higher gas prices. Then if you feel like that's the case, and they're drilling at this, I just don't see how you get there and you're drilling more at the same time. Like
Yeah.
I don't think you can get there.
Well, I think Trump has a lot of oil supporters, and I think to go much lower. I mean, gas is $2.35 in Ohio right now. Like at least my local Finley, right? I'm not complaining about those oil prices or those gasoline prices. I don't think it can go much lower, and I don't think Trump's biggest supporters, oil companies, want it to go much lower. Now, will they increase production? Maybe, but somebody's going to cut out. Someone's going to have that OPEC or somebody's going to have production because there's no way they're going to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to drill, baby, drill, and we're going to have $50."
What's a bigger mover for the automotive market? Lower gas prices or lower interest rates?
That's a great question. I would say interest rates.
I say so too. And so you think the interest rates are going to be higher or lower at the end of this year?
I think they said. I think we're seeing that right now. Interest rates went up with like of the last cut because people feel like we'll have stagflation, meaning because we still. I mean, eggs are. I just bought eggs for $7.50. Inflation's not over with, right?
So stagflation means higher commodities prices, right?
Well, I think you have to say is if we have lower interest rates, we're going into a recession, right? And lower demand. If you're going to think we have higher interest rates, then things are good. And that means manufacturing, automotive, or construction is taken off. I don't see any of those scenarios.
You don't see manufacturing optimism, which has moved up significantly since the election. You don't see home building moving this year, and you don't see any sort of man. What are you guys watching on the news over there in Ohio? What do you guys
Well,
do? Like, do you guys ever, I mean, is it that dreary? You guys need some vitamin D. Like, you guys need some sunny outlook in your life. Some sunny
yeah,
D, some sugary, sugary.
I just feel like these infrastructure deals. That's really 18 months from ever being like actually hitting real demand, real steel demand. Manufacturing, okay. If Trump puts tariffs on Apple and says you got to make it here, that's 18, 24 months before they're actually making an iPhone here, right? If when it comes to construction, even if these interest rates are like the highest they've been in 18 months, like 30-year home loans, like no one's going into this year like, oh yeah, 7-8% interest. That's a heck of a deal. I'm gonna go take a 30-year loan out.
But what if it goes to 5.5?
The only way it goes lower is if commodities and we have a really crappy environment for the next year.
But don't you think? I mean, they just cut rates, right? And I know that the short when they did it, it was a short like it actually the 10-year went up, which
Yes.
obviously is what feeds the 30-year the home loan, like
Yeah.
that market, right? So I understand that. But what I'm saying is that's a temporary like okay, the rates are going to come down, but we probably still think that unless something changes, we could still have higher rates, right? But what if that doesn't change and all of a sudden those start to move back down? What if the dollar actually takes a breath and starts to say, okay, because you saw what happened this morning, right? The Washington Post put out some fucking bullshit about, okay, it's not going to be blanket tariffs. It's going to be like, very targeted tariffs towards specific industries. And the dollar just goes, it wasn't because, it was because the perception of blanket tariffs is the dollar comes up, right? And just the idea, the perception that there's not going to be blanket tariffs, all of a sudden the dollar lost. Like, I mean, it came tumbling down, right? And all of a sudden Trump comes on True Social, or whatever, and says, "Hey, that's bullshit." Like, I'm still because he still needs that leverage to make the deals he's trying to make. Like, it doesn't do him no good to come out and say, "No, I'm just going to pick and choose what I'm going to do." He needs to come out and say, "Blanket tariffs. Screw you guys. Now let's make a deal."
I think the whole blanket tariffs against China is really a deal to cut the purse strings from Putin, right? Like if you go to Putin and say, by the way, I got this deal with China, right?
Yeah,
They're cutting you off. No more business. And the only way you got that deal done is because you threatened China to have all these tariffs, and then you're not going to actually do it, right?
Yeah.
Like Putin's going to be the biggest loser because he's going to have no money. Because if
Yeah.
China catches him off, he's got India. That's
Yeah.
it.
And
And so,
India is an ally of the US for the most part.
yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe you're right. Maybe that's what he's thinking, and that's his ploy. And we don't have tariffs, and the dollar does get weaker. I just feel like there's banks I don't know are, especially these smaller banks. I don't know. I mean, we've been pushing these commercial real estate markets. We continue to push that envelope of are delaying that of when these write downs actually happen. So I think, I mean, to me, it's not out of the cards that a bank fails in 2025. And so that happens. I just feel like it will
If
be.
that happens, does the interest rates come down or do they go up?
I think again, if we have a really crappy environment, interest rates will come down. But if we have this continuous stagflation, I don't think they can really move much, even in a crappy environment.
Well, I'm looking forward to a better commodities prices in 2025. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but that's what I'm looking for. So,
Well, all right. So, what? Give us your 2 cents. What do you think about the U.S. deal, Nippon deal getting blocked?
you know, I think it's politics, man. I don't necessarily think it's business. I think it's politics. I kind of told you like my thing. I think Biden's been bought and paid for by China for a long time. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to read through the bullshit and say, okay, like what's in his best interest. And I mean, when you pardon your son for 18 years of or whatever of doing fucking deals with China and everybody else, like basically grifting, like I mean, you that's the writing's on the wall, right? Like so for him to block it, I feel like that's why US Steel now is like, oh, screw President Biden, because they thought they could maybe get that deal done with Biden in office, right? It'd be easier than with Trump in office. So right now they're just gonna throw him under the bus and be like, yeah, this is wrong, yada yada yada. Now they're gonna have to go and try and get Trump to kind of see. And Trump's pretty much pro USA, pro made in America. He's like, I'd rather see if we can get him to make money and get profitable by just putting tariffs on material coming in to the US. But if you think about it, how can you allow the Chinese to come in and buy all these segments of farmland and all basically all different agricultural assets in our country, but then you're afraid of Japan, who's one of our biggest allies since World War II, to
Yeah.
block a deal with Japan to own a, a kind of a not quite a losing, but not very profitable U.S. steel company. Like that doesn't make, I mean, it doesn't make sense unless you just say, obviously, there's some politics involved
Yeah.
here, right?
I just sure hope the U.S. Steel is not coming for a government bailout 18, 24 months from now, because those facilities require a tremendous amount of capital to reinvest. And
Yeah. And that's one of the motivating like factors. If you listen to like you read through that is one of the motivating factors for U.S. Steel to do that deal is I think there's two motivating factors. A, the executives are going to get paid a gob of money, and so they want that deal to go through, right?
yeah,
The second one is they need a bunch of money to get put into the infrastructure that they're not willing to commit the capital on because that's going to hurt them
yeah,
and the shareholders. So they don't want to commit the capital. They want somebody else to commit the capital, and they want to get the golden parachute on the way out. I mean that is just business. I see how that goes. Now, to block it in the name of, U.S. Security or whatever, like is bullshit. I
yeah.
think. Um, but that being said, I mean, would you rather have the U.S. bail out U.S. Steel or fucking Ukraine? Like, I mean, you're gonna give them money, like put it in the steel bit. I mean, I'll take that deal all day and twice on Sunday. Like, if you're gonna give Ukraine 60 billion, why not give U.S. Steel a couple billion and say rebuild the thing? Like, let's go.
I just feel like Nucor and SDI are already taking out that capacity. That's why they continue to grow. I think they've been very vocal. We are going to take out blast furnaces, and
Yeah.
so and outside of the small automotive sector where they can't make the highest quality of product, right? And so that's where I go back to integrateds. It's going to be their customers are going to be hurt, their demand's going to be hurt, and they can't get that deal done. So it's
And
gonna be
U.S.
tough.
Steel, they know that, right? Like they know that's why they're like, hey, I mean, this is the best deal we can get. I mean, it's pretty much double what they were offered, you know, by a domestic steel company. They're like, I mean, it's 7 billion more or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you have to be good at math to figure out what's a better deal for you as an executive. Now, is that a better deal for I mean, I think the labor unions created that mess by, but it goes back to the old school. I was reading an article. It was like Lee Iacocca said, hey, I've got a couple thousand jobs at $18 an hour, or I got zero jobs at 22. Your call. I mean, and that's why you're in the position that you're in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's an interesting deal. I think it has less to do with national security and more to do with politics.
I like it. All right, let's jump into our first chart here. So we're just talking about the overall market. Dow Jones is down, a couple thousand points month over month, and I think we've kind of all the reasons we talked about, like right, like just a lot of unknowns or
Yeah.
a diverse amount of opinions about what's here to come in the manufacturing and automotive side.
Okay, what do you think? Does the Dow Jones end 2025 higher or lower than it is today?
Yeah, that's
Oh, I got him. I got him thinking now.
yeah, I don't have the full chart in front of me. I can't make a prediction. I'm
Okay.
not ready to make that answer.
Okay.
But it feels like it could be a rough year. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about aluminum. Aluminum's down a little bit here. 4% month over month.
Mhm.
Yeah, another one just not doing well. Let's just keep these big bear points rolling, should we?
Okay.
Let's talk about pig iron. Pig iron's scrap metal substitute. That's down from 460 to 446.50. That's not good, Brett. These aren't good.
No, makes it tough for the Bushlink guys, for prime guys, right? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, come on.
But don't worry. I'm going to show you a couple.
Okay, no. Does pig iron and higher or lower? See, I genuinely think we're set up for a good bull run. I mean, everything has kind of dropped off. Everything had slowed down towards the end of the year. We got a new president coming in. I think he only has 4 years. He don't have time to fuck around. Like he's got to get a lot done in a little bit of time, and it's gonna be go time.
See, I think he kills the economy the first 2 years. Doge is going to crush a lot of different industries and sectors, right? And so if that's true, right? If you believe in Doge, you got to believe that there's got to be a slowdown at first. Anybody that has government contracts should be scared, right? So if Doge does what it's thing, if we do these tariffs, it should slow the whole world down, which it's like China's already slow. So should things slow down for a couple years? And I think once he makes things right in a couple years, if he truly gets that done, then you could see like kind of what he talks about with COVID. He had the economy really cranking, and then COVID killed it, right? Like if COVID never would have happened, things would have been ripping roaring. Okay, so I think he's gonna have the same kind of philosophy of let's make the corrections hard and fast, like not mess around. Like Doge isn't going to be around until next July, right? Like it's going to be quick, and it's going to be a lot of casualties. But then the following 2 years will be the economy will come back.
So you're a 2026 bull. Like we got to
2027, yeah.
I can't wait that long. We got to go.
All right, what do you think about oil? I mean, oil's kind of doing nothing burger, like you said. It's around $74. It is up from 68 last month. What do you any thoughts here?
I don't necessarily see oil moving up in a big way, especially if we actually give our economy the ability to produce it, And I think that on our own and produce more of it. I think that I mean oil isn't going away anytime soon, just like coal isn't. I mean, and anybody that tells you it is full of shit because China builds a new coal plant every 2 weeks or something like that. It's crazy, right? I mean, it ain't going anywhere. I mean,
They're they're actually building a lot more nuclear now.
Yeah, they need both. They're smart enough to do both. Like, I'm not saying that coal is forever or nuclear is or you need all the things, but you can't just kill economies and try and switch all the way over to electric or wind or whatever and say, yeah, this is what's gonna. I mean, go ask Europe how it's working for them.
Right. I think you're going to see like the stage four, the nuclear, the four react like the fourth development of nuclear reactors. They see there's a lot of them in China. I think there's over 50 of them already. I think they'll continue to build those. I think they're safer than what people necessarily have the persona of.
Yeah.
And I think they're smart because I think all this computing will take a lot of electricity, will take a lot of power, and it's going to be a race for that for sure. All right, let's I'm gonna jump over to Turkey. So Turkey is actually up on 80/20 month over month. We're around 344, 345. Now we're around 353, I believe. So
Okay.
we're up like $9, man. Look at this.
Hey. It's a bull point. We've been waiting for you to make one of those for me.
But I think this is like the bullish point for the next heading into January, but could be the bearish point because I do think if China can't get the economy going, which I think it's pretty known that it's not doing well, I think billet and steel will continue to be cheap out of China, which will ultimately hurt Turkey's steel pricing.
Do you think that the Chinese market will be higher at the end of this year than it is today?
No.
Okay, I disagree with that.
Okay.
We don't agree on shit. This like we are. I mean, you think that the Chinese are going to sit there and let that thing just flounder another year?
Well, they're going to have to either do a deal. Well, maybe that's
Trump.
Trump's.
You think they're just going to sit there and Trump's going to come into office? They're going to be like, "Yeah, we're just let you tariff us. We're not gonna stimulate the ever loving piss out of our economy and try and get things rolling." Like, really?
Well, I think who are they going to sell it to? If we have all these tariffs, if we do enact the tariffs, their economy is definitely going to be lower. If we don't enact the tariffs, you're Trump is still saying you got to build it here, right? So I don't see. I don't see it.
Trump is smart enough to know you can't build everything in the United States, right? Like, I believe that in his administration, they're like, you can't. I mean, this time go around, he actually brought some business men and women into office instead of just using these kind of cronies like these recycled politicians, right? He's actually going to bring people in there that actually built shit and in the private world. And they're going to tell him, you can't bring it all here. We don't have the people, we don't have the labor force, we don't have the capacity. But we do need to encourage people to do things here, right? And it's different to encourage people to do it than to force them to do it.
But you encourage them by tariffs.
You do. Absolutely. But you also are at the same time, like you're gonna get the best of both worlds. Yeah, you're gonna get some tariff money out of the deal, but you're also gonna get some manufacturing capacity back here in the US where some of it should be. But we can't do it all. Just the same reason why we can't feed and do everything, everybody here just out of everything that's manufactured in the United States, right? Like we can't whether it's food manufacturing or industrial goods manufacturing. I mean, we are going to be buyers in the market, regardless. Is the price of things going to go up? Yeah, it probably could be. Yeah, I do believe that.
Well, that's I like it, man. You got a strong opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, Brett. I'm here to support you.
You support me. Just send me checks. Send checks, please.
All right. This is probably the biggest bullish point. In Kansas City, they got like over a foot of snow last night.
Okay.
It's cold everywhere, right? So let's just talk about the weather. I feel like this is the biggest bullish point of the January trade. What do you think?
I think it's going to help. I mean, December was kind of nasty weather front. Plus, you had basically 2 weeks of being shut down. I think over here, I left Houston yesterday and we got delayed out of Houston and it was nasty lightning weather. I mean, which is kind of typical for Houston this year. You get some rain, but I think that the guy I was sitting there next to a guy and he's from Dallas. He goes, "What kind of weather are you guys going home to?" I said, "I don't know." I think I looked at the map or the weather app and it was like 25, 35 degrees, something like that, but overcast. And he goes, we're going into ice storms, in Dallas. And ice storms, on the up and down, I think on the East Coast. And Washington, D.C. got the most snow they've seen in a long time, right? So you've got a lot of weather that's going to make it tough to move material in certain spots, which should be bullish for the U.S. ferrous markets. I plus I think in December there wasn't a lot of motivation by any of your Nucors of the world, your big consumers to put a lot of inventory on the ground because they didn't have a great year, so they're not trying to go in the end of the year with a bunch of write down stuff that they gotta chalk up. So they're gonna try and bleed it down. So they're gonna if they're gonna be hungry, it's gonna be tough to move scrap. Should be a decent month.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this cold weather is going to be tough. Hopefully, it'll be interesting to see if steel buyers come back, as we head into this new year. But one thing for sure, it feels like this weather is really, really affecting the flow of scrap.
What is the coil? What do the coil markets look like? The futures?
It's not doing much. It's not doing much. Like Cliffs is still at $800, won't go any lower, and even an $800 hot roll, is Cliffs making money? I don't know. And Nucor is at 750, so it's just flat month over month. That's what I'm saying. And is demand, buyers are not coming off the sidelines yet. So will they this month? Time will tell.
Well, we'll see. I'm optimistic. I got scrap to sell. Optimistic. And if they don't want to buy it, then I'll just make more of a pile.
I do like January pricing for January. Should be hopefully a better month.
So. But you don't like it for February, March, or what?
Well, I do think this will be a short term run. Is it 3 months? Is it 2 months? Is it 1 month? I don't know. That's your bet. But I'm just saying at the end of the first quarter, I wouldn't want to have a big pile of scrap.
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody ended the year on big piles of scrap. Anyways, like I don't know that. I mean, if the economy does pick up even a little bit and demand does pick up a little bit, I don't know. There's companies out there just sitting on big piles of scrap unless they're like coastal export, guys. I think those guys, a couple of those guys could be sitting on some ships. There's no doubt about it, right? A ship or two here or there. I think there is that export material is on the docks. To what levels, I don't know.
Yeah, but no, we agree. I think
the
supply chain is tight. I think it's been getting tighter since July. I just don't see. I guess I feel like if anybody that's placing bets should have been placing bets at $750, $800 hot roll, right? Like how much lower can it really go? And no one's taking the bet. So that's why I'm like, okay, maybe demand is really that weak out there. And that's why I'm probably more pessimistic than 2025.
Well, I guess we're the difference between the guy trying to buy it and the guy trying to sell it.
That's why I love doing this podcast. Thank you.
We got buyers, we got sellers. It's just trying to match them up. Well, all right, man. So we kind of this is probably one where we disagree the most. And you're smarter than me. So if you're gonna listen to anybody, listen to Chad. He probably knows way more than I do. But either way,
everybody knows if I had Brett's money, I'd burn mine.
Oh yeah, right.
This guy's got a suntan. He probably just got back from cruising in the Bahamas or something.
No, those are tattoos. I permanently tattooed tan because I can't afford to actually go and get a tan. I had to tattoo a tan on me just so my arms look darker. Wait till they saw my white ass. They'd be looking like, oh, I know better. All right, bud. Well, I hope everybody has a positive trade for 2025 in one way or the other. But I also hope everybody has a great 2025 in general. It's good to be back in the saddle, get these holidays behind us. They're always a great time, but they're always kind of like, okay, ready to get back to the grind. And so good to be back. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and a good New Year's, and time to go see what we can make happen this year.
Appreciate your time, Brett.
All right, man. Take care, and I'll see you in February. And one of us is going to be right. One of us is going to be wrong. Usually how it goes. See you there.